Oregon mood tracker time. Excellent candidate. The Oregon Ducks, an excellent candidate for the mood tracker and everything this is. The mood tracker is what we do for every major program, and we do it multiple times a year. We want to take the temperature of the fan base. I was over on duckterritory.com earlier today, and I was on the board, and I asked, hey, fill in the blank, guys. My current mood towards Oregon football is what? Got some really good answers, but this is always fluid with every program, but it's especially been fluid with Oregon over the last month and a half, understandably so. There's been a coaching change here. Now, here's what the college football public saw. They saw Mario Cristobal leave, and then they tuned out. But, of course, we did not. Oregon fans didn't. We didn't. We saw Dan Lanning get hired, former defensive coordinator, University of Georgia. He's brought in a really high-caliber recruiting staff out there. And we did not do the Oregon mood tracker intentionally last month. We wanted to wait because it's never smart to do a mood tracker while a program is in coaching transition. Too raw, there's no perspective. So now we got a little ways under our belts and we're sort of out of that dust storm and things have settled and you've got logic that overtakes emotion, hopefully, eventually. But there were some wild takes in the meantime. I was in some of those Oregon Twitter spaces and former players on there talking about being used by Mario Cristobal. I never understood that, being used. If you got used, then you got nothing out of him. He just took everything from you, and that's clearly not the case. So anyway, all that's behind us now. Now we get a true raw mood tracker from Oregon. The Oregon mood tracker right now is, I would call it, take it back out to sea, because they were out there for a little while. They put together a really solid talent roster, and they were ready to see, out on the open water of college football, how they measured up with the big boys. Well, obviously, you make a coaching change, you bring it into port, and they got banged up along the way a couple of times against the likes of Utah, but now you've got your coaching staff in place. It's very important to distinguish here what just happened and what didn't happen at Oregon. What didn't happen is they had to get an entirely new boat. That's not the case. They did not have a portal exodus. Half the roster did not leave. They've got a really, really sound foundation of talent there. I mean, they got a really, really good collection of players across multiple position units. They're not just loaded at one spot. So they don't need a new boat. They just needed a new crew. And they got the new crew. Now, a lot of you don't know a lot about these guys. You're looking at, if you're watching on YouTube right now, the new Oregon coaching staff. And we'll have time throughout the spring and summer to detail some of these guys in a more granular fashion. But look at the talent roster right now. They got a couple of at least legitimate options at quarterback. Ty Thompson is the guy who's been there a couple of years. Bo Nix transferred in. But the obvious biggest fear, whether you're inside or outside the program, is that they will not be able to maintain the recruiting run that they had been on. So just talent acquisition won't be there long term. That's the biggest fear. Talent level will drop. But there is a growing sense of internal optimism around the Oregon program. Here's where it really comes from. They're thinking to themselves up there, it's a big if, but if recruiting remains comparable to what it had been under Mario Cristobal, and they got a really good recruiting staff in there, so they've made their intentions clear. If recruiting stays comparable to what it was, what they're thinking to themselves is we may be in a position to upgrade the program. Because, see, the dirty little secret that no one wanted to talk about, but now they'll talk about out in the open, is Oregon fans were never crazy about their staff on Saturdays. They loved what they were doing on recruiting trail, but they never thought that they were going into a Saturday about to out-scheme anyone, about to, outthink anyone, outsmart anyone. It's just, that was not the MO there. Offensively, Oregon was not running circles around anyone. The fan base up there felt at times they underachieved relative to the offensive potential, and you can lay that in a million different folks' feet. But whatever the case is, broad strokes purposes, Oregon fans are looking and saying, hold on, if we've got a good recruiting staff, which we do, and we maintain roughly the same caliber of recruiting, we may have some guys here that offer us the ability to net upgrade the program. And who would have expected that nationally? And that's where some of the optimism's coming from. Because they got some good coaches up there. We've got really good recruiters. The whole mystery is exactly how will they be? Dan Lanning's never been a head coach before. What does that mean? I don't know. They're about to find out. They were willing to roll the dice with him, though. I'll tell you that. And there were some other folks who would have wanted that job, and they were willing to roll the dice and go with Dan Lanning. Now, there's this other kind of subcurrent that I think is a waste of time entirely. And there's another subcurrent that says, well, why should we buy into this? because maybe if Dan Lanning achieves at a high level, we're just going to be waiting for the inevitable, and that's him leaving us for a better job. Mario Cristobal left you under pretty unique circumstances. I mean, it was his alma mater. I didn't think he was going to leave, but he left. But the point is, it took something pretty unique. Oregon is pretty unique, and that's why it took something pretty unique to pull him away from there. I don't have, in fact, I think it's dumb to have those fears. It's always there, outside of a few examples, like Kirby Smart's not going to leave Georgia. Nick Saban's not going to leave Alabama. Outside of that, I mean, Brian Kelly just left Notre Dame for LSU. So pretty much anything's on the table. How big a waste of time is it going to bed every night worrying about that? No, you hopefully have a situation there where it's going to be too good for them to leave. Make it that way. But look, if you don't make it that way, Cristobal just left you better than you were when he found you, when he got there. If Dan Lanning does the same, great. Then you go find another guy. And eventually, you find the guy that stays around 10 to 15 years and totally immerses himself in Oregon and vice versa, and he's a legend for the next 50 years. But there is some optimism up there that is not being felt nationally right now. All people know is that Mario left, and half of them don't even know who the new head coach up there is. Well, that's okay. That's okay. A lot of coaches that have gone on to have success that people didn't immediately take notice of. Dan Lanning could just be the next in that line.